Hey everybody, welcome back to the IHC Craft Room. I'm so happy you're here to spend some time with me today. We're going to be dot painting this super cute prancing reindeer onto these canvases. It's a 5x7. I picked this up at Dollarama. I have no idea how long ago. And we're going to go ahead and make this. So this is live number 26 of the Holiday How-To series, which is coming to an end as we approach Christmas and New Year's. And then we'll start a new series for Valentine's Day. But for now, this is number 26, and I'm super excited. This is going to be really pretty. Okay, so if you're dotting along with me today, you can get this downloadable in the description of this video, and it's free for you to use. So please make yourself at home, use it. You can always adjust the size if your canvas is bigger or smaller. Now, this is actually a flat canvas. It's not one of those pulled ones that has like a thick frame. I really like this. I've never actually used this before. I have them, but I've never actually used them. So this is going to be the first time, and I'm kind of chuffed about it. It's exciting. Okay. Let's cut this reindeer out because it'll be easier to transfer it and center it when the time comes. But we actually have a step before that. Now, of course, you could totally dot paint directly onto the canvas as it is right now. I assume you don't need to treat it much, but if you needed to, you could always do a coat of matte varnish or something, some kind of varnish. Again, I've never painted on canvas before, so we're going to see how this goes. What I'm going to do actually is I want to paint this black. So we're going to start with that. I'll put this aside for now. I'm going to paint this. My parchment paper roll just finished on me, but I have another one. Don't worry. Worry not. I just have to open it, which is never easy for some reason. All right. Well, that was very easy this time. Beautiful. Wunderbar. Okay, so I'm going to use some chalk paint to paint a base coat of black on this because I really want this to pop. And with the colors of the actual image, a black background is really going to make it. It's going to make it sing. Okay. So I'm using chalk paint. I picked this up at Walmart many, many, many moons ago. I'm at the actual bottom of it, actually. So I have another one waiting in the wings. All right. Now you, of course, can do any color you want. You could leave the canvas bare, like I said, but I would probably do a coat of varnish or something so that you're not. And the reason I'm saying that is because we're trying to get round dots if possible, right? So if the canvas is going to kind of suck some of that paint in, it might steal the round, beautiful shape of our dot. So putting a little bit of a base coat like varnish, or in this case, I'm using chalk paint, I think would be helpful. Now, normally I would paint the edges of the canvas, but I'm not going to go into that level of detail right now because, quite frankly, I have a canvas waiting in the wings for me to dot paint on it. I just want to do everything from start to finish with you, but I would never be able to paint directly onto this right now. So I have one waiting that we will paint. We will dot paint on in a minute, but first we're going to finish painting our canvas. I debated about doing like a midnight blue or a sky blue even background. I feel like that would have been really pretty too. All right. This is going to end badly for my fingers, I can just tell. Beautiful. Chalk paint is naturally thick, but it also dries pretty quickly, considering. So you could totally get away with one thin layer, or you could do 2 thin layers. But that's up to you. It all depends on what you like. I'm only going to do 1 thin layer of chalk paint because I feel like that's sufficient. And then we would do a coat of matte varnish when this is fully dry. But that's obviously not going to happen right now, but I highly recommend that. I always varnish the base coat of anything that I'm dot painting, because if I make a mistake, which I often do, it allows me to remove that mistake a little bit easier and probably not strip my base coat. So I'm going to move this out of the way because, like I said, I have one ready. And we are going to grab that. My chair's squeaking up a storm over here. Okay, so this one has been painted with 1 layer of chalk paint, and I've also varnished it with a thin layer of varnish. Now I am going to transfer this onto my canvas by using a chalk pencil. This is a technique I use all the time. I highly recommend it. It's something that if you're not a person who can draw freehand, which I am not, this is something that will really help you be able to use beautiful images like this by tracing them onto your project. So I'm going to use my chalk pencil just to color over all of the back of this. And then we're going to transfer it. Want to be careful and make sure that you're really covering the whole thing. You don't want to miss anything, because it'll be hard if you start working on it and then you have to go back and add some chalk. I've had that happen to me before. It's annoying. I would not recommend it. But it's not a big deal. You can deal with it. We pivot, we deal. It's not a big thing. I like to take it easy whenever possible. Okay. We are doing great here. I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and I just don't want the feet. Okay. So I've got that well covered. I'm going to go ahead and try to place it I feel like here is good. I want to have a little bit of room behind. Yeah, I like that. I think that's in a good spot. Okay, so what I'm going to be using is a dotting tool, but you can use a pencil or a pen to trace as well. You could use a toothpick or a shish kebab skewer. I use these a lot in a lot of dot painting stuff. And we'll be using regular dotting tools tonight, but you can definitely use things from around your home to do this as well. So for this, I would recommend something that doesn't have a really sharp end, because you don't want to pierce the paper. You just want to be able to go with the lines to transfer it. And try to remember where you're starting so that you don't miss a spot. So now that I've placed it, I'm going to keep my hand on this spot and only move it when I need to, because I don't want to move this paper. Now keep in mind, there is a lot of detail in this image. And I'm not intending to do a ton of detail. Some, yes, but not a ton. It's a cute little pink ear right behind it. Some of these are going to be hard to accomplish using dot painting. It's not that it can't be done, but it's a little bit more of an advanced technique. So we're going to make this more beginner friendly and do it on a little bit more of a looser, less detailed manner, because that's the way I like it. I didn't do this line. Okay, there's a little eyelashes I almost missed. Okay, so this pocket of the eye, I am going to try to do that, but this is what I mean. Like all of this detail in here is going to be a little bit hard to accomplish with our dots. We'll do a version of it, but it won't be on this level. But you'll get the gist of it. You'll get the fact that it's an eyeball and that it's blue. And that she's got these really pretty eyelashes. Yeah, that's great. I'd also like to do this shadow here. So we'll make sure to outline it. Okay, I feel like I got everything on the head. Let's see. Not bad. Okay, let's go down. Did I do this already? I can't remember. I think so. Better to do it twice than not to do it at all. But we will check again like we just did. I would say I'm using medium pressure. Probably a little bit lighter than I normally do. My hand's hurting a little bit. Like this, the paw is going to be a little bit, or the hoof rather, is going to be a little bit hard to be super specific with. So these little details, we'll try to like give the essence of it. But it's not a big deal. Okay, let's see how we did on this side. I missed this part of the leg. How's that? It's kind of hard to understand that. My brain's gonna, this is why you always keep your image with you as well, because it's not necessarily going to completely translate to your brain. Like these color variances that we're outlining and highlighting, they're going to probably confuse my brain a little bit. So it's good to have the image nearby afterwards. It'll be interesting to see how this comes out. I missed the other side of the hoof. Okay, I think I already did that. Okay, let's see. I'm pleased with that. Missed the belly here. Okay. I feel like that's good. I am pleased with that. So we're going to go ahead and get started on now outlining. When I'm done, when everything is completely dry, we are going to erase these chalk lines using an eraser. I use a regular pencil eraser. You could use a wet Q-tip as well. So feel free, but I find that the erasers work very, very well. So I always have a couple of things handy when I'm dot painting, which are Q-tips and toothpicks, muy importante, and also usable as dotting tools if you don't have any dotting tools. You could also use a shish kebab skewer for a bit of a thicker point, and the top has a nice size as well. Look around your home. There's lots of things. I use the top of not toothbrushes. I guess you could use the top of a toothbrush, but this is a paintbrush. I use the top of them all the time because each size of paintbrush has a different handle, and some of them are smaller and bigger. I've also used recently a glue stick, which was a great size dot. So highly recommend, if you have no dotting tools of your own, to go ahead and look around your home. I'm sure you'll find a bunch of stuff that you can use. Okay, so we're going to get started with the main body. And this is like I don't know, I kind of feel like that's almost the perfect brown. So I was going to darken it a little bit, but I don't think I want to. I think I'm going to leave it. I feel like you really can't get any closer than that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to dot paint around the edge of this outline using a fairly small dotting tool for that. So we're going to go with the 1 millimeter, which will give me a fairly small dot, but a bit on the bigger side as well, because I don't want to spend a ton of time outlining. You can really get lost in the weeds when you use really small dots. So keep that in mind. And we're going to get started. Always try to keep track of where you have your hands so that you don't rest your hand in paint. So I'm going to start on the edge over here. Actually, no, I'm not. I think I'm going to start on his flank, on the back and the flank. Right there. So if you're new to dot painting, a couple of things you want to make note of is this. To me, one of the hardest parts of dot painting when I was learning was learning how to space my dots so that I didn't accidentally, create a blob instead of two separate dots. There's really no way to get good at that except for practicing it. In fact, anything related to dot painting, the best way to improve is to practice. I find practicing boring. I'm not going to use practice papers or things like that. My preference is to make things. And so I highly recommend that a project like this is a great way to practice spacing out your dots. Now, I'm dotting at a very fast pace because I've been doing this for many years, but a beginner should be taking a deep breath between pretty much every single dot. This project should take you much longer than it's going to take me. And I was much, much slower at dot painting when I first started. It took a long time for me to build speed. So worry not, butterfly, you shall arrive. But if you're wanting to practice spacing, this is a great kind of project for it. Now, I'm not going to get too lost in the weeds over here in terms of the, I lost my wet rag. Distracted much? Okay. In terms of the way the feet are, it's going to be a little awkward. So I'm going to try, because it's such a small gap, this little white gap that they have here. So we'll do it. This is one of those things with dot painting. Like I said, it's kind of, you want your dots to be visible so that they know what you're looking at. I almost dotted on top of that dot. We may get a blob out of that. Let's see what happens. I do it often. So even with experience, you will find these situations occur. I generally don't stress over it because I don't really care. We'll fix it if we want to fix it. If you don't want to fix it, leave it. Unless you point it out to somebody, most people won't notice it. Now, I'm going back and forth from paint to canvas over and over again so that in terms of the paint that I have on my dotting tool, I'm going to get roughly the same size dot. There are lots of things that impact the size of your dot, and definitely the amount of paint on your dotting tool is one of the top ones. So if you want to keep getting back and forth to that, same size dot, you're going to do that by continually adding paint to your dotting tool. Whereas if you just take a little bit of paint and keep dotting, you will have a descending amount of paint and you'll get smaller and smaller dots. That is a technique called walking the dots, and we will definitely do that at some point probably. If not on this project, I do it a lot in dot painting. It's a fun technique and something that is definitely worth practicing. But I wanted these dots to be somewhat uniform, so that's why I'm going back and forth. I don't know if I want to put a dot there, but I did. Okay, good. I'm a little high up here. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize where I was positioned on the screen. See, down here is where we're going to have another one of those issues where we need that little bit of white that kind of sneaks in here. So that'll be using a much smaller dotting tool for sure. So I'm going to actually leave it and give myself a chance to put in a little streak of white there and just in here as well. These hooves are going to be a darker brown, and we'll fill in those with the dark brown as well. This is going to be a lighter tan. I'm going to start this tail, but it is going to end with that lighter tan color as well. Beautiful. Wonderful. Okay, so let's do these legs as well. I'm going to turn this around to do that. If you're capable of hovering your hand, you could totally go over. I'm just weak. My hands are a bit weak for that. I find it uncomfortable and unnecessary because you can just flip it over and do this. So, but you do you. This is me doing me. So that's going to be cream. So we want this line here. So this is a bit more of an intricate design than I would normally do with this technique because, like I said, I find it a little bit hard to get into that really, really detailed way. But I feel like we'll make this work. We'll do it. Okay, this is going to be this whole color too. So put way too much of this paint in the palette. And the reason that matters to me, just so you know. Oh, you know, I just realized I never put the line to end the hoof. So I've actually gone too far down with this color. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually extend the hoof a little like that. And I'll put like, no, I'll just stop there. I'll put the brown line afterwards. I want the dark brown to be the line. Well, no, I didn't do that here. So I need to do it here. Okay. So to mirror, I'm going to go across. This is going to be another one that's a little bit tricky. My dots are getting a little bit large for my taste. So it's always a good idea to clean off your dotting tool. Okay, so how are we going to do that then? So we'll say this is where the hoof is going to be. Oh boy, there was some kind of piece of crap on there. So I'm twisting as I'm trying to grab that paint off there. And that worked out really well. I don't always clean up my dots, as I said. It depends on what's around it. There was nothing around that, so I knew it would be an easy cleanup. So I went for it. But if not, I might have just chosen to leave it. Rather than risk making it worse. Which I have done before many times. Okay. And there's supposed to be a little like snippet of white over here. I don't know how realistic that is. And so I'm going to do what I did here, which is I'm going to leave that so that I add that white and that'll be what breaks off the leg or like differentiates the leg. If I try to dot that leg, it's just going to look messy. So we'll leave that for now. This is going to be cream. This is brown. So let's go back to... Okay. So now what do we want to do? So this is going to be cream in here. That's cream there, but then this is all brown and then that's red. I think I'm going to leave this spot and I'm going to move on to the neck. We'll come back into here later because I'm probably going to use the cream and the red to outline as opposed to this tan color. Oh, I didn't say anything about my paint. I'm sorry. My apologies. This is called Cashmere Tan Acrylic. I got this from Dollar Tree. I only have a few Dollar Tree paints. Normally, I get my paints from Dollarama, and I get the Deco Art, which we're going to be using for other colors. Okay, so the bottom part of the ear is pink. So I'm going to just stick to this one line that I'm already on. Okay. Now this is the top of the ear. So we want the same color. I'm going to turn this over. Why are you so far away? Get a little closer. Don't be shy. Oh, I better stop. Probably have to like... What's this? That's the ear. This part's supposed to be pink. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I'm understanding this right. So this is the outer ear. So that's going to be pink. That little bit right there has to be this color. And that's it. Okay. I actually think I'm going to leave that and use a smaller, you know what, I'll just use a smaller dotting tool. I'm going to move down to the 0.8 millimeter to just get into this little area here. That's it. The rest is going to be pink, and these are going to be like a taupey color. So, like I said, pink, this is brown now. Okay, so brown up to the nose. I went back over that dot because it was a little small. Okay. Now underneath here is going to be that taupey color. And the eye is mostly the taupe and then the black and blue. So I feel like we're pretty much done this color. Yeah, for now. Okay, so the next color I'm going to do is going to be that warm beige. So we're going to do the antlers and all of these little shots of light, because then it'll be easier to fill this in afterwards. I'm slowly pushing this off the screen. I'm trying to not put a ton because that's way too much and it's going to dry and get crusty and it's just going to annoy me anyway. So, okay, these are dark brown. So under here we need though. So I'm going to start. I'm going to leave the rest of that because I will accidentally make a blob if I'm not careful. You know, I'm noticing that this paint is much thicker, so I'm getting bigger dots out of it. Okay, we're gonna let that dry and come back and fill it in before we move on to other colors. So this is brown. That's gonna be a little bit of white. Let's do the tip of the tail because that needs some of this, but I think we'll use the smaller dotting tool, the 0.8 millimeter, to get a smaller cute. Okay, now we're gonna do the chest and the neck. So I'm gonna actually flip this around for that. Oh, I just realized I'm using the wrong size dotting tool. I only want to use that small one when it's like a really small nook and cranny kind of spot. Otherwise, I'd like to try to keep the outline dots kind of uniform in size. Okay, then we're gonna put gold bells here. And we'll dot in between. So I'm not going to touch that. That's red. So let's start from over here. So like I was saying before, when I was learning to dot paint, and even now, when I want to practice a skill, instead of getting like a practice paper and doing it over and over again and being super bored, I make something. Anything. It really doesn't matter. Just something that you enjoy making and you practice that technique while you're making it. All right. Now we're also going to do, the face is going to be a little bit harder to do because you kind of want that line of the lip, which would be this color. This is definitely going to require a thinner dot. So we'll go back to that 0.8 millimeter. And I think what I'm going to do is I am going to outline it. Let me watch where I put my hands here. I'm going to outline it in the beige. And then we'll do a line of brown in the middle. You won't really see it unless you're close up, but that's okay. Kind of like my gingerbread lady that I did the other day. My gingerbread girly. Her name is Gina. Dot painted her on a wood slice the other day. And when I put in her red lips, her pink lips, you almost couldn't see it. But up close you could, so they were cute. She looked cute, don't worry. Gina the gingerbread. If you're interested in seeing that dot along, Mary from the future in the replay is going to put that up here in the corner for you. Gina the gingerbread. Okay. That's good. I'm going to go. Wait, calm down. I'm going to go here. I'm kind of hovering my hand a little bit because I want to be able to see. I don't want to turn this upside down. It'll scramble my brain a bit. Okay. We're going to fill that in with some tan, I think. We'll see. All right, let's do the antlers next. I don't know how I feel about this big white around the eye, but I'm going to do it because I don't know what else I would do if I didn't do it. So at this point, other than the dots that I just placed in this area over here, everything else on my canvas right now is dry. These little dots dry really, really fast. So it's easier to kind of rest your hand places if you need to. Okay. So that is antler. Right. So let's keep going. Good. It's going to be hard to see that that ear. It's just going to look like a little flash of pink. This is what I mean about like when you get into these really intricate little spots, it's kind of hard to see that differentiation, even though you might use different dots and different colors of paint to show it. It's kind of like you're using these dots to blend together and show you the image. So it's kind of hard to see those like really specific tiny areas, you know? It's okay. It's still gonna look super cute. It's gonna be the cutest. I'd like to know why I keep elevating my pinky. I'm just like, hey. Okay, beauty. Let's move on to the next one. A little tip from me to you, something you'll notice that I do from time to time when I am dotting is I look at my hands pretty frequently to see if I have any paint on my fingers. It is very easy to accidentally transfer paint to an area you didn't want there to be paint. I thought there was something in there, but it's okay. So it's always a good idea to make sure. I'm coming towards this center point over here, and I'm going to walk the dots down there as I get a little closer, which I told you about earlier, when you're just going to put some paint on your stylus one time and then keep dotting until you get to the end. And that makes them smaller. It's an easy way to get into those difficult corners. Again, that pinky's up. It's not tea time, Mary. All right. We're in good shape over here. All right. Beautiful. Now, a lot of the outline is done, but I'm going to do around the eye because I feel like I need to. And then we're going to move on to maybe the pink ears. I just realized I'm using the smaller stylus for this, but that's okay because this is a good size dot. So we pivot a little bit, just a wee bit of a pivot. Gonna leave that for the eyelashes. Do I just put a whole patch of it, or do I go tan here? I think I might go tan there. How do I want to outline the eye? Maybe in black. All right, we'll see when we get there. For now, I think that'll do. Let's go ahead and move on to some pink. I didn't realize it was, oh, I have this pink. I had mixed this last week for something. I can't remember what. This is a little bit of Tutti Fruitti pink, which is pretty pink. And some white. Mixed to my favorite color. Pink, 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 pink. All right. So I'm just going to do the insides of the ears. And up here, we have a little bit of pink too. So let's do that real quick. This is that spot that I was saying, you're not even going to notice it. And if you do notice it, your brain won't understand what it is. You know what? I really don't need to be using the smaller one for this, but it's too late now. I'm committed. Okay, when we go up into this corner, I'm going to walk the dots right now. Beautiful. Now I'm going to fill that in with pink, but first I'm going to let those dry. I always try to let the outline dry before we start filling in, and that's 100% just to avoid accidentally smudging something, because it's totally avoidable by letting it dry. So we got our pink. I'll put your lid back on for now. I'm going to go ahead and do red next. We'll fill in the nose. So I'm going to be using Christmas red from Deco Art. I got this one from Dollarama. Definitely a fave of mine. And we're going to do a couple shots of red in here. I think I want to start with the belt. And then we'll do the cotton. Actually, is this all dry? Yeah, I'm going to actually do the collar first so I can rest my hand. And then we'll do the belt. Oh, these are really tiny dots. This paint is not giving me a lot. You know what? It's too late now. I'm committed. But if not, I would have switched to a different. It goes to show you how much the consistency of the paint impacts that. Good. We'll give that a second to dry. Beautiful. I would actually say that's probably already dry. So I'm going to fill that in real quick because we can. I'm just putting one more row right in the middle. This is a small spot, but that'll give you the full neck strap experience regardless. Wonderful. And I'm going to fill this in, but with a slightly bigger dots. I'm going to do that by flipping over my stylus. This side, I believe, is a 1.25 on all of these. I don't know why they're all the same, but they are. I think. I could be wrong. And I'm going to do the exact same thing I just did, which is just put a row of these bigger dots right down the center. Just had a little spaz. Now, another way of doing this, instead of doing the small outline and filling it in the way I'm doing it now, we could have just used bigger red dots. No outline, just the dots. That's another option. All right. The only thing left in red is the nose. So we're going to go ahead and do the nose. And this is going to be, I'm basically going to fill this in as a big red dot because I don't want to lose the shape. Beautiful. Wonderful. My friend Rudolph. Okay, what are we going to do next? Let's fill in that pink since we're on the pink and red right now. I'm done with red. Let's see. How far along are we? We're just shy of an hour in. We're about 54 minutes in. We've got quite a lot accomplished already. The most time consuming is always the outline. So this part is going to be a lot, quicker in my opinion. I'm going to go with the smaller side to fill in this pink ear over here with a few. Beautiful. This one, we can make the dots a little bit bigger. So I'll use the other side. Okay, so this is a bigger spot. So I'm going to do more of an abstract dot here instead of rows like we did before. Now this is going to be too big this side. So I'm going to go back to the skinnier side. And we'll fill in what we can. I feel like we've got as much pink in here as we're going to be able to get. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to set this pink aside as well. What do we want to do next? Let's do the pupil. The center of the eye is black, and I might actually dot a black dot in it, but there's a little bit of blue around the iris, around the edges. And then there's a bit of an eyelash over here, but I'm going to have to do that with, I don't know what color I can do that with, considering the background is black. Got to be careful that I don't touch that pink ear. There we go. Then we'll put a little tiny, I don't know if I'll put that little white fleck because it might get lost and make it muddy. So we'll see. What do we want to do next? That's it for the blue eyeball. We can fill that in. I think we're ready to start actually filling in now. And then we'll do the darker dots later. Actually, let me do these bells so that we don't miss them. And I'm going to be using spun gold for that. I'm going to actually dot them straight. I should take my 3mm dotting tool, which is the biggest one that I have in this stylus form. And we'll get a nice bit of glue, gold paint on my dotting tool. You can see that I'm tapping my stylus, and that's because I'm trying to get more paint to come off and make my dot larger. Beautiful. We are moving. Okay, I think what I'm going to do next is I think I'm going to start filling in the tan, because I think it'll make it easier to see the whole vibe. And then we'll fill in things. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more of this. This is called cashmere tan because it's made of cashmere. Okay. So because we have a lot of real estate that we can cover with this one, I'm actually going to go up to a bigger dotting tool because we're going to do that abstract dotting as opposed to going in a perfect line. So for example, I'm going to be using my 2.5mm dotting tool and taking a sip of water, which you can see is, you know, on the thicker side. It's not the thickest dotting tool I have. That 3mm green one is. But okay, here we go. So we're going to go and start. I'm going to grab quite a lot of paint on it. And then what we're going to do is just go any which way we want. Put the big dots wherever you want them. We're trying to cover real estate at this point. Ooh, that was close. We'll do the same over here. And then we're going to go back and fill those in with the smaller dotting tool. This is a much thicker paint, so I'm trying to be conscious of that and not accidentally plopping it down where it shouldn't go. All right. What else? Okay, I think that's as far as we can go with big dots. We're going to have to go into fill in now. Okay, so we're going to give those big dots a second to dry. And we'll switch to, where did it go? Here you are. We're going to go back to warm beige. We're going to start filling those in now. Probably with small dots because these aren't big spaces. Ew. There's something gross in there. I don't want to talk about it. Ew. Okay. I'm going to use the top of my smallest dotting tool. Again, I think this is a 1.25. And I'm going to start filling in. This is going to be the biggest dot that these will have. Yeah, we're going to use mostly. Oh, I put in the wrong paint. Mary. Whoopsie. Nothing to see here, folks. Yeah, I'm going to go with this little. You almost can't see. It almost looks like a blur of dots now. This is what I meant by that. It gets a little fuzzy when you have a lot of detail and you're using dots. But that's okay. What we really want is for somebody to look at this and be like, oh, that's a reindeer. And we'll be like, yeah, isn't it pretty? Okay, so I actually want a dot right here because I don't like that. Okay. I would say those antlers are basically done. I could probably pop a couple little ones in there just to fill in. Just because I'm being difficult. But I would say these guys are done. Beautiful. Now, in here, we need to do the line of the mouth, which I think we said we were going to do with this darker tan. I don't know how that's going to work. Let's try it. I don't want to put my hand on anything. Yeah, you can't even tell. You can't even see that. That's okay. We're just going to fill this in. Okay. Beautiful. Let's do under the belly. So right now I'm just walking the dots because there's just way too little room in here to be doing anything fancier than that. I think that's good. I'm going to touch the tip of this tail a little tiny bit, but not a lot. Okay. Good. Okay, let's do around the eye. Not really sure how I'm going to show that eyelash. Maybe I'll try using dark brown. I made a little blob. This is a good example. I don't know if you can see it, but I made a blob over there. And it's in too difficult of a spot for me to do anything about it. So I'm going to leave it. I consider that a character point. And also, it's just not going to happen. I have a couple comments here. The reindeer is super cute and cute. Oh, thank you both. That is very sweet. I think it's super cute too. It's turning out really nice. Even though those little intricate parts can be a little tricky, we will pretend it's not happening. Okay. I think I'm going to leave it like that. I need a tiny bit of white. Actually, no, I don't. This is supposed to be, the white is the background of this, so it's supposed to stay black. Okay, so that's fine. I think it's time to start trying to fill in the body a bit more, and then we'll be able to figure out what to do with the eyes. So actually, let me do a round of smaller dots inside the head. So basically what I'm going to just do is try to fill in as much of this as possible without double dotting. Like dotting over a dot I've already made or causing a blob like I did in the eyeball. Ooh, those two got close. There might be a blob about to form. Yeah, it looks like it. Oh no, 2 blobs. It's just terrible. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. If you're new here, my name is Mary, and I like to take it easy when I'm dot painting. Take it easy. This is supposed to be relaxing, calming, chill. So if something goes wrong, that's okay. If we can fix it, we fix it. And if we can't, it adds character. Okay. I feel like we are as dotted as we can be over here. Which I've noticed means every time I say that, I actually end up putting in more dots. So perhaps this is like, you know, when you go visit somebody and you're like, okay, guys, we really got to get going. You stand up, start walking towards the door, and then you stop and chat a little longer. It's kind of what's happening here. But in dot form, you know, the dot form. All right. This is really taking shape nicely. It's funny how just adding in those little dots really does make a huge difference. And that's one of the things that I really loved about dot painting and what really got me doing it so frequently is that if you have the right tools, and also, you know, toothpicks are a great tool for this, you can get the smallest dots you ever did see. And it really just comes down to the tool. And that really makes a big difference when you're not somebody who has the ability to do major freehand drawing. Having this option for art is unbelievable to me. I feel like there's some, yeah, there is. What's the problema? You getting crusty on me? There was like a little piece of paint skin in there. So over here, this is a good example of what I mean by it gets messy. You see how the legs are going to kind of blur together. You're going to know that they're legs, but you won't really see the definition. But that's okay. As long as you know he's got legs. And he's prancing because he's a happy little reindeer. He's prancing. Okay. Oops. You know, it's funny. At this point, you really can't even see the chalk much anymore. At least it doesn't feel like you can. But when you erase the chalk lines afterwards, it really is like, wow. Okay, yeah, you really could see the chalk. You know what? I'm getting sick of this paint because I think it might be the paint from before underneath. So that's just getting dry and crusty. So let's avoid the annoyance. Oh shoot, that's supposed to be beige. I caught myself just in the nick of time. Okay. I'd say that area is done. Let's move on to this side. Oh, you know what? It is the paint that's like this because that was a piece of crap in there. Well, this just proves the point of why I like the Deco Art paint from Dollarama better. But I feel like this acrylic or whatever they call it from Dollar Tree has more options, like color options. Not that I really use a lot of different. I end up using mostly primary colors. And if I didn't have this tan color, I would have made some version of it using brown and white and maybe a little bit of yellow or something. But I really like this color. I feel like it's a good match. I need a little bit more. Solo poquito. A little drop. We are in the home stretch over here. There's just some finishing touches. And we'll be done our prancing reindeer. He likes to prance. Gonna leave this area open because I want to put some dark brown for these pads. Just like 1 or 2. We'll see how that works out. Okay, so I want to remember to fill in that because I missed it earlier. So let's do that real quick. Wonderful. Okay, let's see. I'm going to, I feel like that's still drying. I'll come back to that a little bit. Let's do the dark brown. I've got this burnt umber. It's going to be really brown though, against this black. I don't know if I want to lighten it up a tiny bit. Are you stringy too? What's up with my paint tonight? Did I imagine it? Maybe. Okay, let's pretend it's not happening. Okay, so down here, I want to go for a bit of a bigger dot, which I'm going to elongate into the pad of the foot. So I'll use this bigger 2.5 millimeter stylus for that to get a good size. I'm definitely not going to be able to do 2 pads, but I will elongate this a little like a teardrop. I think that looks good. I'm pleased. Let's go ahead and dot these other ones. So I'm going to dot them around like finely. I don't know if you can see the contrast between the brown and the black, but in person, it's noticeable. But probably on camera, it won't be. Awesome. And then we'll fill this in a second. These I'm going to fill in with small dots because there's literally no room for a big dot in there. Well, I could do small-ish dots. We'll come back. One big one in the middle. Beautiful. And one in the middle. All right. I'm going to go back and get this now. Let me go on the other side, the 1.25 side for a second. And I'll just put 2 dots in the middle. Okay. And then we'll go back around them with, actually, you know, I just saw a spot. I want to add a couple of dots over here. Sometimes something to make note of when you're using a chalk outline like this is that because the chalk itself is pretty thick, you might lose track of how close you need to get to the thing because that chalk is filling in the gap. So a good example is this collar over here. I had missed this little gap here because the chalk paint kind of overrode it. And then I just noticed it and thought, ooh, I will fix. So I did. So there's a little tip because it's definitely something that's gotten away from me in the past. Okay, I am looking at this and there are a handful of little things I want to adjust. So the first thing is going to be, we're going to finish these hooves off now because this is dried enough that I can add in a little bit more just to really make these brown. Okay, great. Now, a good example of what I was talking about is around these hooves here. Remember those brown, almost teardrop shaped ones I did? Well, we got to fill in around them. So, and there's a couple of other little spots now that the paint is dried. I'm going to pop a couple of dots into. And then we're going to try to finish the eyeball. Oh, I've got paint all over my hands. See? Okay. Let's go ahead. Oh, no. I almost put in the wrong one. I'm going to go right around here. Okay. Beautiful. Trying to put the smallest of dots just to fill in those little bits. Okay. I feel like beautiful. Okay, I think for this, I'd like to do a couple more in here. This was a spot that was calling to me. Beautiful. Wonderbar. What else? Okay, so let's deal with the eyeball now. I feel like we filled in everything we're gonna. So let's do the eyeball. How do we want to handle this? I think I'm going to use this brown to make the eyelashes, since we can't use black. But this is another example of like that level of detail I was talking about that will get lost because of all of the dots that are there. It's going to be... Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to just make this entire eyeball blue. And if I don't like the way that looks, then I will put a black dot in the center. But I feel like it's going to make the eye look weird if there's too many layers in there. So let's do this. We're going to give you a nice big blue iris. What do you think? Is that better or worse? Should I make this whole thing a big, big blue dot and overlap those ones? I think I will, and then I'm going to drop a black dot right in the center. So let me get a bigger dotting tool for this. I'm going to get one of my dotting rods. Oh, careful. The 5.0 should be fine. Let's see. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. We're going to give that a couple of seconds to dry. Usually I would give it more than a couple of seconds, but we're literally at the end here, so I don't want to drag it out too long. But I am going to drop another black dot right in the center to give it a pupil, but I feel like that's the right move. So, okay. Let's talk about next steps while we wait for the pupil to dry. The next step would be, in my opinion, or not my opinion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this to dry really, really well. What does that mean? It could be an hour. That is really well in terms of when you have these small dots. When you have bigger dots, like that blue dot, for example, you definitely want to let it dry for much, much longer. And that's because the outside might look dry, but the inside of that dot is probably not dry. And then you're going to end up messing up your dot, which is not a good time. So I highly recommend giving yourself, a good solid day, maybe even 2, and then go in with your eraser. I'm going to erase my chalk lines with an eraser. This is just a regular eraser. It's nothing special. I find that it works much, much better, but you could also use a damp Q-tip. That would also work. I just find it much more frustrating. So when I figured out that the pencil eraser worked really well, I was just like, okay. Or what do they say now? Bet. Isn't that how they say it? The cool kids. All right, let's go ahead and put a drop of black right in the center of the pupil. Actually, wait a minute. Before I do that, I'm just thinking that, again, remember we were talking about where is your chalk line, and don't forget to butt up against it. Where's my skinny? There you are. I want to add some cream around that blue eyeball now so that we fill in that gap, or else it's just going to be black in the middle of the reindeer's head, which wouldn't make any sense when we have this patch around the eye. Okay. There is, right here is the lashes. So I'm going to leave that. And if I don't love it later, I will fill in the white and then maybe dot an eyelash on the outside. We'll see. I'm going to actually add an eyelash right here. 2 little dots. Super cute. All right, let's get that pupil done. Actually, I'm going to give it one more second. So as I was saying, erase your white chalk lines using an eraser or a wet Q-tip. Let that settle for a few minutes, and then I will be sealing mine with a coat of Liquitex matte varnish. Gloss would be great as well. Satin is beautiful. I use matte because of the lights that I use here during my recordings. So matte is always my go-to, and Liquitex is my go-to varnish, but there's a ton of varnishes available that you can find at Michael's and a bunch of other places that work probably just as well. So I recommend if you have a couple bucks to test out a few different ones, go for it. And if not, Liquitex is a really good default option. Okay, we're going to put one big black dot. Yeah, that blue is still really wet, but that's okay. Woo! That is quite an eyeball. All right. Our prancing reindeer is complete. What do you think? Is he cute? Not bad. Pretty close, right? I mean, you get the gist of it. It's never going to be identical, but pretty good. I'm pleased with it. I'd love to hear what you think about it in the comments below. Are you going to be making a reindeer yourself? Because I would love to see a picture of it. I really enjoyed dot painting with you tonight. This is always something that I love to do, and I will continue to do lives every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we'll be dot painting a bunch of different things. Next week, we'll be dot painting something for New Year's. The week after that, we're going to start heading into Valentine's Day season. So come back and hang out with me again, and we'll make something beautiful together. If you want to look at some other videos, I have a lot of options on my channel. Lives like this one, if you like hearing me ramble. And if you'd rather not, I have some shorter videos that are like 10 to 15 minutes long with some voiceovers that you might be interested in. Lots of beginner-friendly projects on my channel. It's basically the only way I know how to roll. So I hope you enjoyed spending some time with me tonight. I really loved making this with you. And don't forget to subscribe so that we can continue to get crafty together. Toodaloo!